Hey, welcome to Captain John's Salt Life. My name is Captain John, and one of my customers here just acquired this vessel, sailboat, over it's a Hunter, I believe it's a 31, and he just had the opportunity to haul it out of the water, and he got it for a ridiculous price. But he actually asked me to come down and give me my opinion on the boat, and I'm going to give you the walk around of what I see while he has the opportunity to have it out of the water, what he needs to do. Okay, he knows a lot, but there's things that another set of eyes can actually help out. So from the bottom paint to the blisters to the keel to the shaft, the prop, the strut, the rudder, you're coming with me. Let's go do this walk around. All right, the first thing I notice is the name. So we got the right proper boat. The next thing I'm looking at is the waterline. Now he didn't understand what I was talking about, the waterline. All right, now I'm going to point something out here. Right here looks like the natural water line, doesn't it to you? Right. What happens when you go to the back of the boat? So let's walk down here, and I'm following this line. See, it's getting higher and higher, and this is what customers do not understand. Look, that water line right now is under the water. All right, so whoever painted this boat in the past did not do a proper water line. So this dark blue and this white needs to come off, and this bottom paint needs to come up. All right, so from the front of the boat, we need to raise the water line, then put this stripe above the water line, and so that gives you a good water line base. I'll show you on another boat what I'm talking about. It's actually that boat right behind us. Okay, so right now we are out of the water. Although the bottom paint's here, this is not bottom paint. That's why you're starting to see oysters, 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 and so on. Look at this. This is completely under the water. This water line needs to be this high. So get rid of this and get rid of the white stripe, sand all that down, put a barrier coat there, and bring the bottom paint up. Okay? Look at this. It was under the water so long that the actual pinstriping was taken over by all these oysters. This is completely under the water at the dock. All right, so that's that. I'm gonna now we're looking at the rudder. I didn't see any blisters. If I see one, I'm gonna point it out to you, but let's go ahead. And I'm looking at the top over here. I'm shaking the rudder and there's no slop. That's a good sign. That is an oyster. These are through hull drains for the cabin, for the cockpit there, and some other through hulls over there. Anyway, the rudder looks in great shape. Let's go to the other side. Now this is the port side, the left side of the boat. All right, I'm looking at the rudder again. Nothing wrong with this. Nothing, except for the fact that the bottom paint needs to come up 4 inches above this blue line. All right, going over here. Okay, I know we're gonna go do the hull, but let's stop here since we're at the prop. Okay, this propeller, I would like to see, because it has all this growth on it, taken down by a sandblaster to see if it's got any red or electrolysis. It doesn't sound like it does. It sounds normal. All right, but watch this really close. Look at this little gap right inside here. If you could see that. Hear that noise? He needs a new cutlass bearing. I'm not really worried about this zinc right here. It looks like somebody actually put that on after the fact. That looks like it's brand new. This zinc looks like it's been on there for quite some time. So I would like to see the stuffing box inside the boat being redone. The cutlass bearing, the strut is solid, but the cutlass bearing, he's gonna lose his shaft. It needs to be changed out. All right, so let's continue forward. Okay. Right off the bat, I'm looking at a steel keel. They're always going to rust like that. That's the weight, the ballast of the boat. Because it had so many oysters on this boat, I was expecting some blisters, but I don't see any. So he's going to sand all this all the way down and see what he's got. Now this through hull right here, I would replace. See it coming away from the boat? This side over here is touching the hull, but when you come around the backside, see how it's separating? This is midship, port side, needs to be replaced. coming around here. Everything looks really good. He's gonna grind this down, sand it down, and it looks like he's already started. So let's see what he's got underneath. Little sending unit for depth. Paddle wheel's in good shape. I don't know if it's reading, but it's in good shape. And we come back over here where he actually ground. This is beautiful. A little wavy. I don't feel any blisters. But then, this is a blister. He needs to flare that out, all the way out, and find out how far this blister goes. And then he should fill it with Duraglass and call it a day. So in all, he got a really good boat here. He needs to, let's rehash, he needs to grind all this blue off all the way around the boat, because he can always put that on later. He needs to raise the bottom paint up to about the height of the blue line. See? He needs to bring that up 4 inches all the way. All those oysters back there, barnacles, were sitting under the water. And that's not good. Okay? So, some people say, oh, I'm not going to fill the boat up with anything, but then you got water and fuel. Now let's look at the boat in the back here. That 4 inches I've been telling you about, look at this. Look at this again. All right? The water line's here. This guy's water line is right here. And you can tell the natural seeding of it sitting in the water left a line, and it's 4 inches all the way around. Ain't that cool? Now this puppy's sitting nicely out of the water. Even when you get to the back over here, this green line, you're talking this right here, okay? That's actually Cooper's oxide. Look, it's still 4 inches all the way under the boat. This is the natural water line. He raised his water line, got rid of the pinstriping, and did this right. Very good. If you haven't subscribed already to my channel, please do so, and don't forget to hit the like button and definitely the bell for upcoming videos, especially on this one. We hauled the sailboat out after the owner purchased it, and we're doing some things to it. I've showed you around the boat what I felt when we first saw the boat, and I want to show you now the progress of the boat over the weekend. We found some blisters. We got the striping off. We raised the water line. He got the masking tape off. That's not good out in the elements. So finally he got that off too, and we're getting ready to paint the bottom. Come on. Remember this boat? It's called Transition, and that's exactly what we're doing today. See that? Top stripe is all the way off now. We actually used a belt sander to get that off. And see, as I was telling you about that masking tape, you can't use masking tape and leave it sit there for a week. Now we're dealing with sticky stuff all the way around, and that's going to have to be taken off, denatured alcohol and acetone or something of that nature, so we can get back down to the hull. Let's walk around the boat here. All right, so he's got his blisters. He did exactly what I said. He's pulled it off. Now that's a little wet, so he must have done that just last night or this morning. Okay, so maybe he didn't use enough hardener in that, so we'll be monitoring that, because if it doesn't harden, then we're going to be pulling it back off. See, that's still wet. That's not a good sign. All right, as you can see before when he was sanding it, how many spots he's got. As far as the blisters go, he flared them just like we talked about. He's got a new through hull, which I recommended before. These were still good. Obviously the rudder's missing, and there's another. The rudder's missing, and it looks like the shaft's nicely taken out. He is going to remove this spot right here, okay, and freshen that up. The other through hulls seem to be good. Cutlass bearing is missing, so that's going to be installed here shortly. And as you can see, remember I was telling you about the water line? This is where the boat was sitting in the water. That's what I was saying. This is not the water line. This is the water line. Okay, so 4 inches above that water line is where his bottom paint should, regardless of the stern. Regardless. Go ahead and paint that too across. Okay? I'm hoarse because the Buccaneers did win their football game this weekend, and I was celebrating pretty good. So
So here we are again. Here's that sticky stuff. You know, we don't use that. We use blue tape, painter's tape. All right. So I am not liking this. Maybe that'll kick later on today, and we'll see how that goes. Using the belt sanders and the DA over there, that will smooth it up. He did a real good job of skimming it. It's a little rough here because that's once that dries, he'll be able to sand that off and even it up with the rest of the bottom paint. But yeah, see how that's flaking off? That doesn't look good. We're gonna have to watch that. Okay. Another thing I'm going to point out, it looks like these are just sitting in there. Yeah, there we go. He needs to put 5200 in there. See that? So there's obviously, when you put a through hull in, you obviously have a hole. If you take the old through hull out, there's the hole. You match up the threads and the through hull with the new one, right? Well, instead, back in the day, they used plywood as a backer plate before the nut. So now we're going to use starboard. So when we put 5200 around the outside threads here, the mushroom, stick it up into the hull. Person inside, we've already made an actual starboard donut, I guess you could say. It's about that thick. It slides over the threads with another bead of 5200 right next to those threads down the bottom, so there's not a ton of mess. It sandwiches and makes it into a gasket. Then you put your nut on top of that, tighten it down, and then you put your ball valve on top of that, and then you're done. These can be done in the water. I do them in the water, so I was explaining to him, and he's doing exactly what I said. Okay, so let's carry on here. Okay. That's a good sign. Okay, that's a little harder than I thought. So maybe they had two mixtures here, because this one feels okay. Once they sand that off, yeah, this side feels good. I don't know what happened to the other side. Yeah, this is dry. This is dry. Okay, so we're coming along there, and there's that sticky stuff again. Good Lord. So that's just one thing. I'm pointing this out. He's going to get a little bit of railing up there. Name's off. Remember that blue stripe and the white stripe? That's off. We talked about this over the weekend. There is an actual blue line all the way from stem to stern that when we go ahead and put the 6-inch or maybe even an 8-inch 3M stripe up there, it'll cover a lot. Some of those wears that are in the top there, it's going to cover that. But we'll get denatured alcohol on these guys and that paint stripe, clean that up. He's going to raise the water line for me. Okay, this is the water line actually here. So 4 inches puts it way above the tape. Okay, so all this down will be water line paint, bottom paint. So every time you see some of these dark spots, we found out that they were actually blisters. And I'm going to take you over to another boat, and I'm going to show you what I showed him over the weekend, because this boat over here had blisters too, and it's this one. And if you, as we're walking by, you can see all those spots underneath the hull, right? Well, right there needs to be brought back until it meets and be nice and smooth all the way around. So this and this is smooth, but that needs to be brought back further. And so I brought him over here and I showed him, I think it was this one. Yeah, that's perfect round all the way around. There's no edges, right? There's no grabs. All right, take a look at that. And take a look at that. And take a look at this. See how that right there needs to be brought back? And this right here needs to be brought back, all right? That's separated, all right? So whoever's doing this is doing a good job. You have to cut it, there you go, nice and smooth all the way around. And so I showed him that, and he did just that, okay? So he's coming along here, and I'm gonna let you go for now, but thank you for tuning in. Again, Captain John, Captain Jon, Salt Life. Subscribe, thumbs up, watch the transition of the transition, and there she is. One other thing, it looks like he's going to get a brand new shaft, and And I forgot to mention, when you get a shaft, you get the coupler to match the shaft. So you really don't want to use the old coupler. Everything's going to be new: stuffing box, shaft, and coupler. So when he watches this video here, hopefully he will remind to go ahead and, when he orders the shaft, he'll get the coupler with it, with the keys. And then we'll get the cutlass bearing back in the strut and get that shaft painted, and he'll be good to go. So and the water line was down here, and now he is actually up 4 inches all the way back, and that is fantastic. Remember, we also had some blisters. Okay, now these pads are here because he hasn't positioned them. He probably just painted this on the bottom, and it still needs to dry just a little bit, but to me it's ready to be moved. I would go ahead and get some paper or some cloth and put on behind here, and then move this forward so he can actually finish painting underneath the hull. That is common for yards. They will be moving these at the last minute to paint this area and let it dry for 1 full day before it gets splashed. Okay, as we're coming through here, there's another pad. You can see how you got paint, you can see the hull underneath there. I hope he moved those to the side and put a barrier coat underneath there. I'm praying that he did. Let's get underneath here. It looks like his keel is almost finished too. And I'm going to turn the camera upside down just a hair and see what he did underneath there. That has to be painted too. All right. Now, what do we do with these blocks right here? Well, right before the boat gets splashed, he's going to have a can of blue paint. The straps are going to be located up there. Once this gets lifted up, he's going to roll that, and that paint will cure under the water. Okay, now let's take a closer look at the through hulls here. It is very well put together and sealed. But whoever did the painting didn't paint inside. We don't know why, but that needs to be done. Remember, we are under the water line. Or just, the water line is probably going to come up to here and 4 inches, so it's going to be very close to the water. We don't want any kind of growth to get in here. That was the whole purpose about raising the water line. Okay, so let's get inside those through holes here. Same thing inside there. All right, no paint. And I would get more paint inside there as well. Okay, through holes are very important. You got to get up in there. All right, so I think the owner just forgot to move the pads to put the barrier coat underneath here. I'm looking around, the bottom job looks wonderful in my opinion. The only thing is, he needs another coat on there. You cannot skimp with bottom paint. All right, I know the paint that he's using, it's not that expensive. He needs to put another coat on here and move these pads. All right, now this was my job, but I'll show you that if you stay tuned later in the program. By the way, my name is Captain John. I am a professional at this. Please subscribe to my channel. It is called Captain John Salt Life. And I'm showing you what needs to be done in a bottom job in a yard before it gets splashed. Okay? I'll come back to the shaft and I'll explain to you what I did. Somebody's working in the background. We're just going to continue around the boat. Follow me. I'm looking in here to see if he actually got the cutlass bearing replaced. It kind of looks like he did. Okay. All right. And yep, that's nice and tight. Again, we're coming around to the other side. See this light blue stuff right in here? Needs another coat of bottom paint. Okay, somebody got really skimpy here with the bottom paint. So this whole boat needs to be repainted with the bottom paint. And then the pads need to be removed. Today is Monday. Hope he does this tonight or tomorrow so that the pads can be moved and he can knock the other squares out. Same thing with the keel. Let's see this through hull. All right, this through hull has no paint in it either. Got to get up in there, get a towel, dip it in the paint, slam some paint up in there. Okay, it's not rocket science, so let's go ahead and do it. The blisters turned out really good. They sanded it really well. Yeah, this is too thin a bottom paint. I'm noticing something now. This might be thin bottom paint, as you can probably see with the white showing through. This has probably got 2 or 3 coats on it, maybe 2 coats on this. So I don't understand why he pulled the tape off when he could use another coat of paint on here as the 3rd final coat. 2 on the bottom, 3 on the waterline, as previously discussed. All right, so it looks like the detailer's been out here. It looks like he's been compounding. If you can see by the sun, sorry about that. See the FL letters maybe glowing. I don't know if you can see that or not, but he's actually compounded this area, and it's shining. I was telling you about the shaft. When we pulled this shaft, I told the owner that I have a specific paint that I put on the shaft and what I put on my props. When the boat's in the water, I pull props off and I take them to my office and I paint them with a special paint that no barnacle grows on for at least 8 months. Well, I did this customer a favor and we're in the yard, so I went ahead and told him to get a new shaft. And as you can see, when I finished painting it, I actually put blue tape on that to cover the threads. Then I covered it in cardboard. Obviously somebody's trying to peek at it. And then I put tape over here where the zinc's going to be, so that I didn't paint the gray over the shaft and then put the zinc over paint. You wouldn't want to do that, okay? And then of course I covered the keyway with more paint on there. Now this is where the shaft's going to go through the hole. Let me show you where it works. There. This piece right here goes into that hole with 4200 wrapped around it, all right, and acts like a seal. It would be nice if somebody was on the inside, but see, I also painted that gray on the outside, and that's a good thing, okay? So just before he splashes, I hope I can come back over here and I'll touch up some of this other stuff, but for right now, if it's just left the way it is, it'd be perfect. But there's the 4200 that we're looking for. He went out and got that, and what we're going to do is open that up, and we'll put 4200 right around just the tube area. You don't have to goop it on, right? Because it's going to smash and it's going to create its own seal, okay, once that's tightened off in the inside. Now this is the coupler that came with the shaft, which is a great thing, and there's a keyhole in here. This is what the old coupler looks like. Nobody likes to have rust in their sailboat, so we get rid of that. We got brand new. I got engine paint, heat paint on that. All right, that's going to go as your shaft goes through this hole into the hull. This coupler is going to go on with the keyway, lock it in, and then those 4 bolts get bolted to the transmission. Okay, brass nuts for your propeller are all set, ready to go. I'm going to point out some bullets right now really quick. I want him to put that green tape back on the water line. Okay, it's going to suit 2 purposes. It's going to help the buffer, the polisher buffer, not hit his bottom paint and cause that to be white. Okay, the polisher has a stopping point, because right now it's bare. If he bumps into the blue, it's going to be a white swirl. All right, and 2, he needs to put another layer of bottom paint on that water line. That'll be 3, and come down through the hull and paint the whole entire hull again. It's very thin. It's not going to last. Okay, the way he's got it right now, it probably lasts 6 months. If he puts a solid coat of bottom paint on the hull and be detailed every crevice up in the through hulls, let it dry for 2 days, come back, move these pads around with some wax paper or whatever in between the pad and the hull so it won't stick. It's okay if the paper sticks to the hull, because once it's in the water, it'll fall off based on the wetness. But right now, he has got no barrier coat underneath the pads, and he's got no bottom paint to support those spots that he obviously is supporting the boat. So we need to move these pads around, okay? Other than that, we got right behind me, we're still waiting for a rudder. And I don't see any rudder around here. So, oh, there she is. Okay, so another thing. Before he goes and paints this again, we need to do a little bit of sanding, all right? And paint this rudder. It looks like he's tried to paint it one time but ran out of paint. But anyway, and we need to lubricate this up with waterproof grease, all right? These little rings right here need to be cleaned up and moved away. Wet sand, you know, lightly, 2000 grit, get all this rust off of there, and put a layer of waterproof grease on top of that shaft. There's your boon. Okay, So, see, this is the mast here. I'm gonna take you off this little pedestal, and we got the mast painted over here. The owner did anyway. He's all prepped it, and we're gonna be installing that coming, I wanna say Friday. We'll be stepping the mast up here. There's one thing I did want to point out. Well, the type of paint that he's using on the hull. There's several different brands, but he picked up this brand. Okay. I prefer Trinidad or Seahawk. I don't even know what this is. Well, you might not be able to know either, but it is a yellow can, and it says ablative. I don't understand why. Let's see what Cooper's oxide is in there. Okay, if you can look really close, I'm going to be doing this in my next video too. I want to indicate what the ingredients are in these paint cans. This one, I can see a 3. That means 30%. Right? The sun's going down. Sorry about this. Right there where my finger is a 3, if you can see that. And the other stuff is filling. So, and it looks like he's got some paint in there. 30% copper. You want 80% copper, it'll last 5 or 6 years. The thicker, obviously the better. So let's go ahead and get another coat on this bottom. Put that green tape back on for the polisher, because it's going to be a nightmare for him. If we do get polish on the bottom paint, then we can, right before it splashes, we'll put another layer of bottom paint on the waterline and cover all that stuff up. I pretty much covered everything for, oh, I pointed something out here, maybe on the first video, but this ladder here. What is wrong with this ladder? Let me point at it. What is this doing? Right? Some people might say, what? What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Well, I want you to look at this very close. If this was your sailboat, what would you think? Would you think gel coat being chipped away? Right? This is metal. Well, those are 1 inch. You know, like if you had a walking cane, and at the bottom of the walking cane you have a bumper. They sell them at Home Depot. This happens to be a 1 inch tube. That could just be lifted up, put a bumper underneath there, and then you don't have to worry about it smacking into the gel coat and chipping it away. Well, that's getting to be all for now. Somebody messed up here, and I tried putting acetone on it. So, unfortunately, we might have to live with that or touch it up with gel coat down the road. Somebody goofed. Bottom paint is treacherous. It's as bad as 5200. Once you put it on, it's everywhere. That's why you have to think ahead before you use this stuff. All right, getting ready to be splashed. The next video, hopefully the mast will be stepped, the bottom will be painted, and the hull will be buffed. Subscribe. Love y'all. Have a great day. And it is the new year.